Guess who's back? Of course, it's me. It's back. This is Donnie with the OC Show with another great show for you today. Wanted to just go ahead and talk to my fans and talk to all you real quick about a subject that's been going on in sports because that's what I do here at the OC Show. I give you hot takes on the latest sports subjects. That's what I do here, and that's what I want to give you today. Real quick, let's get to our sponsor today. Sponsor today is East Coast Water Quality. East Coast Water Quality. If you are in the Hampton Roads area or parts of Eastern North Carolina, give us a call at 757-966-7600 for a free water test. Again, East Coast Water Quality providing free water tests for those in the Hampton Roads, Virginia, and for those in Eastern North Carolina. Give us a call, 757-966-7600, extension 109. Mention the OC Show, and we'll give you a nice free gift. All right. Let's get into my subject of today, for today, I should say. Now, for the past few weeks, headlines in sports have been, well, let's kind of break it down. Let's put it into a little bit of a box. Right now, we're in the heat of the NHL and NBA playoffs, and I'm not going to front. Um, if the Red Wings were in the NHL playoffs, I'd be paying attention to it. I'm not really paying attention to it. I think they're almost to the. I think they're in the conference finals right now. The big story for hockey right now is Edmonton could be the first Canadian Stanley Cup winner in over 30 years. Whatever. Not important right now. Who cares? Because it's hockey. Sorry to a couple of my friends out there, Dominic Astorino. Sorry, buddy. But hockey is hockey, and when it's relevant, I'll talk about it. It's just not relevant right now. NBA playoffs up until the conference finals. The NBA playoffs has been great. It's been 100% great entertainment. But the conference finals came, and we got a sweep on the Eastern Conference side, and we got a gentleman's sweep on the Western Conference side. But finals start this Thursday coming up. Right now, it's Sunday, June 2nd. So Thursday, June the 6th, the finals start between the Dallas Mavericks and the Boston Celtics. I'll have my thoughts on that. But let's stay with basketball for right now. Let's stay with basketball. Basketball has been trending, and for the first time in my life, the ladies have taken the stage. They have taken front and center stage. This whole Caitlin Clark WNBA stuff has been the story for the past few weeks. And it's interesting because I remember 20 some odd years ago when they brought out the WNBA, and I was like, well, this is pretty interesting. Women's basketball league, pro basketball league. I'm not against it, but again, I'm not going to front and tell you that I'm some kind of big fan of women's basketball up until last season. I'm just not. It's just not on my radar. It's not on many sports fans' radar, and that's just the truth. Right or wrong, it's not something that is a focus of the typical sports fan, especially the typical male sports fan. Forget male sports fan, the typical sports fan, period, because women aren't into it that much either. I like to kind of look at the world, and whether it's a good way or a bad way. This is just one of my ways of looking at different things. I look at my Facebook. I've got about 800 or 900 Facebook friends, and at some point or another, I know each one of my Facebook friends. I know some of them, through college, from living in Michigan, living in Virginia, all sorts of different ways. For a lot of family members, extended family. But I look at my Facebook, and the one thing I can say about my Facebook is it's straight down the middle when it comes to politics, especially. I've got probably half of my Facebook friends on the left, half of my Facebook friends on the right, and some of them kind of in the middle. But I've got a good mix of people. So when I see people post about different things, I kind of get a good gauge of what's going on in the world. And right or wrong, I can use that as one of my gauges on what's going on in the world. But when it comes to sports, a lot of my friends are not sports fans, but most of them are because you know most people are sports fans. So you see during football season they'll post about the Chiefs or the Bears. or during basketball season, they'll post about the Celtics, and college football season, Ohio State because they're mentally uh, disturbed. Just kidding. Um, but you see through a lens like social media, you'll see who likes what, and where people kind of fall, where people kind of stand. And so basketball, football, baseball, you see who's fans of what. When it comes to women's basketball, out of all of my Facebook friends, I have one Facebook friend who is into women's basketball. Just one. And I give her a lot of credit. It's my sister in law, actually. She's really, really into women's basketball. She used to play basketball in high school, and she's a true fan. Just like I'm a true fan of NBA, NFL, MLB, I'm a true fan. She's a true fan of women's basketball. And so she gave me the idea to kind of broach this subject. I've been kind of thinking about it, and I kind of had some thoughts on it. And I wanted to make sure that I dealt with this very carefully because being a father of daughters who play sports, I want to make sure that I make this very clear and still stay true to myself. I'm not going to, on purpose, offend anyone with my comments, but I'm going to tell you like it is. I'm going to just tell you the truth. It is what it is. Again, before I get into what I got to get into, and I don't think I'm going to get real heavy into it, I am a proponent for women's sports and a whole different subject that maybe I'll touch one day. Women should play women's sports, and men should not be in women's sports as participants. They can coach, they can be officials, but women should play women's sports, men should play men's sports. That's a whole different topic for a different day. I don't care if you disagree with that. If you disagree with that, then we just are going to be on different sides of the coin. But women should play women's sports. That being said, women's basketball is very interesting. Has become very interesting in the past 2 seasons, um, and it revolves around one young lady, Caitlin Clark. Now, Caitlin Clark has taken women's basketball by storm. Last year with the Iowa Hawkeyes, they made it to the final game and they played against LSU and lost to LSU and Angel Reese and that team with Kim Mulkey, Angel Reese, and all those young ladies. And it was her kind of coming out party. So the world knew who Caitlin Clark was. And last season, um, the 2022-2023 season, everyone was ready for this 2023-2024 season because we're like, okay, we've got someone to look at. We've got this Caitlin Clark who can shoot the lights out and can pass and seems to be a great player and will be undoubtedly the number one pick in the WNBA draft. And she was the number one pick. But let's not get ahead of ourselves because this season, college basketball, Iowa again made to the Final Four led by Caitlin Clark, but they lost to South Carolina in the final game. And again, bringing more eyes to women's basketball than have been there for years. My eyes never, forget my eyes, my head, my eyes, my brain have never really thought too much about women's basketball because it's just not interesting to me. And just like most fans, I'm just being honest with you, it's not interesting to most fans, most sports fans. And why is that? Why is women's basketball not interesting? You could give several different answers, and a lot of people have a lot of disrespectful answers, and I'm not going to disrespect those women, but it just wasn't interesting. It wasn't entertaining up until last season when you had not only Caitlin Clark, but you had Angel Reese and her colorful way of presenting herself, and you have Dawn Staley, who's a staple. I'm becoming a Dawn Staley fan more and more each day by just watching her. I don't agree with her a lot of the things she says socially, but as a basketball fan, as a basketball person, I'm becoming a big time fan of Dawn Staley. She's great, and the tension has been brought to women's basketball because of Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark has made women's basketball, entertaining. I'm not saying the product is great because if you want to get right into it, it's not. I'll get into that a little bit later. It's not a great product. And I mean, if you're a pure basketball fan, just like my sister in law is, who actually we had a discussion about this, um, basketball now is a little sloppy. That's a different subject for a different day. But not so much because of the basketball is great, but because I'm entertained by Caitlin Clark. I'm entertained by South Carolina Gamecocks. I'm entertained by Angel Reese. And throughout the women's tournament, I would look at these games and I would watch with a interested eye to be entertained. And I was very entertained, and especially by Caitlin Clark. Someone who can shoot that well, it's entertaining. People like that. People will gravitate to it. And more eyes got onto women's basketball because of Caitlin Clark, whether you like it or not. And so the Iowa Hawkeyes made it to the final game. They lost to South Carolina. South Carolina is your women's college women's national champion. And Caitlin Clark, she couldn't get Iowa over that top. But to lead a team to the Final Four 2 years in a row is saying something. You did something right there. And so women's basketball is pretty interesting because they will have their draft pretty much right after the Final Four is over. So it's not much time for these young ladies to have off. So Caitlin Clark had her last game, got drafted. Now she's playing in the WNBA. And now, since she made it to the WNBA, all the eyes that were on the college game are now on the WNBA game. And so this is where it gets very interesting. This is where it gets to be, dare I say, confusing to me because now eyes are on the WNBA. Quick story. When I was in college back in the mid to late 90s, I worked in a shoe store in a mall. And it wasn't too far from the Palace of Auburn Hills. And the Palace of Auburn Hills is the place where the Detroit Pistons and the former WNBA team Detroit Shock used to play. And one day I was working at that shoe store, which wasn't very far from that area. And young lady, well, she was older than me, but still she was a young lady at the time, came in. And back in the mid to late 90s, I mean, I'm a sports fan now, but I was a huge sports fan. I didn't have a wife or kids, and I just had to go to college. So most of my time was video games and sports. And so I recognized this woman. I looked at her. She was tall, and I said, As I looked closer to her, look a little closer as she came into my store, to the shoe store that I was working at, and I realized that was Cheryl Swoops. Cheryl Swoops at that time played for the Houston Comets, I believe it was. And I was like, "Oh, Miss Swoops, nice to meet you. Glad to see you. It was cool to see, Cheryl Swoops. I knew her from when she played at Texas Tech, and she also played on the Olympic team. What I think the '96 Olympic team she played, I believe. But and so I said, at the time there was no time for selfies or anything because if there was a iPhone at the time or a cell phone, I would have asked for a selfie. But back during those times, you'd ask for an autograph. So I got an autograph from Cheryl Swoops. And the interesting thing that Cheryl Swoops said right after that, because the WNBA was very, very young at that time, she said, "Well, you're going to come out to the game." I said, "No, I've got to work." And she was prepared to give me tickets to an away game at the Palace of Auburn Hills for me to come watch the Detroit Shock versus the Houston Comets. I think that's what it's called, the Houston Comets. And I couldn't accept the tickets. I appreciated it. I was very polite, and she was very, very nice. And she walked out, and it was just a cool thing. And I have the autograph. I know where the autograph is at my dad's house. I know exactly where it is, and it was cool to get an autograph from a women's basketball legend. Fast forward to now, because back then she was trying to get people in the house to see her product, to see their craft, to see them play. 20 some odd years later, because as we all know, well, if you don't know, now we're learning right now, the WNBA has never made any profit. It's just, there's no interest in it. Why is that? Why is there no interest? Why do I have, out of my Facebook friends and family, I can point to one person who's a WNBA fan who can tell you about the WNBA. One person on there. I mean, maybe there's someone else there that I just don't know about, but there's one person that I can point to. I can tell you NFL, NBA, I can point to the NHL, several people on my Facebook, and just using that as a gauge, one person out of 900 that know about the WNBA. Now, after all these years, no eyes, no one cares. It's a thing. It's just okay. There's a WNBA, and can I find it? Maybe, maybe not on TV. I don't know because no one's looking for it because no one cares. Sorry. No one cares. Now, Caitlin Clark comes along, and guess what? Now people care. Now people want to see this product. And so now you can see it on ESPN. You can see it on this other different stations that I didn't even know I had. Ion, what's Ion? I don't know. NBA TV. They're showing these games because of this young lady. Is it all because of Caitlin Clark? No, but I'd say it's probably about 85% because of Caitlin Clark. People want to see, the antics of Angel Reese and all these other different young ladies who in this crop here. You got Angel Reese, you got Aaliyah Boston was last year. She got drafted, but they're looking to see Caitlin Clark. They want Caitlin Clark to shoot threes from way behind the 3 point line. And so now you have eyes on the WNBA. All the fans that were talking about, oh, there's no respect. People don't give women's basketball any props or anything. Now you got it. And what are you doing with it? What are you doing with it? You're complaining. You're complaining. Oh, Caitlin Clark is getting all the pub and press. Oh, it's all about just this one person. Yeah, it is. It kind of is about this one person because she's interesting. And if I go a little bit deeper, she hits a demographic that you weren't hitting before. And I'm going to be very PG right now, but it's hitting a demographic like me, the more than casual sports fan who's going to look at it because it's interesting, not because it's better basketball. Because some of you will argue, oh, it's better basketball, it's more sound. Is it more sound? Is it better basketball over on the women's side? Because I look at some statistics, and we look at statistics. WNBA turnovers last season, 14.2 per game if you average all the teams together. I was like, oh, what about the NBA? What about the NBA? They turn the ball. That's not a clean product either. You're absolutely right. WNBA has gone from bad to worse, and the product right now is not so great. But they only have 13.56 turnovers per game, so you're about a turnover less per game. Not to brag that the NBA is so much better at taking care of the ball, but don't tell me that the WNBA or women's basketball is a better product because they're more fundamentally sound, because they're not. They're just not. So stop it. Also, the this next thing that I get into kind of goes both ways. Now, if I was on a team against Caitlin Clark, I'd want to bust her tail. I wouldn't want her to do anything. I'd want to shut her right down. She's not going to make me look bad on national TV, because guess what? You're going to finally be on national TV because of Caitlin Clark. You weren't on national TV last year because you want to know what? No one cared. Sorry, I'm not trying to be mean or harsh, but it's just the truth. No one cared. Now people care. And so I don't blame you, whoever you are, guarding Caitlin Clark, whatever team going against the Indiana Fever. That's the team that Caitlin Clark plays for. You're going to want to give your best for two reasons. One, because you're a competitor, and I respect that. And number two, you want the world to see you perform your craft. You don't want Caitlin Clark to drop 40 on you. You don't want to be that team or that defender that got that dropped on you. So I get that part of it. But what I don't get is this. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Caitlin Clark's the reason why chartered flights for some, national TV coverage for others. So the hate on Caitlin Clark is very puzzling to me. WNBA fan, WNBA team, WNBA league, you finally have that person to get you the exposure that you need to show people like me and people besides me, because I'm going to give you a way more chance than a lot of people will. Because you talk to some of my friends, some of that are sports fans, they're going to give you one shot. And if your one shot is you complaining and crying because this young lady has brought you exposure, and and it shows how ridiculous your fan base is, then shame on you. You're going to not have that fan base, and this league is going to go nowhere. And the next thing that may happen if Caitlin Clark continues to get, Caitlin Clark needs to now. I'm going to say this: Caitlin Clark needs to go ahead and step up, because what I have seen of Caitlin Clark, she is a bit of a Luka Doncic, and she is kind of a whiner, putting her arms out. Oh, look at me! I should get this call, this and that. No, you're a rookie. Take the calls you're supposed to get and kind of do what your dad said back in the tournament: shut your mouth and play. So Caitlin Clark is not without any reproach. She has to get a little bit of criticism, not much, but a little bit. But at the same time, people pushing her down, people cheap shotting her. Know where your bread is being buttered, young ladies. And while I respect you for being a competitor and wanting to compete against Caitlin Clark and not have her get the best of you. I respect that 100%. But to be dirty and to be just all out nasty to her, not the way it's going to go. Because if Caitlin Clark gets smart and gets sick of all this, not smart, I shouldn't say that. If she gets sick of the antics that she's going through in the WNBA, she can go elsewhere and possibly get paid more in another league and go overseas. And that's what happened with, that's another one of the arguments. And I'm not going to get into the whole pay gap because that's a whole different silly argument that is ridiculous that WNBA fans and women's basketball fans like to, complain about. It's ridiculous. And I will possibly get into that in another show and I'll make a lot of people mad. And that's fine. I don't care about making you mad. I'm just going to tell you straight up is what it is. Um, if you want to get the bag and get paid more money, not college, professional women's players, you need someone like Caitlin Clark. I'm not saying let her win and not compete against her, but hating on her is not the way you're going to get the bag. Not going to happen like that. Um, Healthy competition is great, but poor sportsmanship and poor um, just just craziness out on the court against this person, off the court saying, "Oh, I'm not going to talk about this person." I mean, we got to kind of grow up at this point, ladies. We have to, if we want to make this product what you guys want it to be, because the door swings both ways. Oh, no one's paying attention to us. Now that they're paying attention to you, you're acting crazy. Now you're acting like a butt because you're jealous. My suggestion for you is this, and you're professional basketball players. You're way more successful in sport than I ever have been, and I respect that 100%. But what I would suggest to you is sportsmanship. Be a woman of character and not be a woman who is petty, selfish, and unsportsmanlike. You're better than that. You have the world watching finally. Years ago, the slogan for the WNBA is we got next, we got next. Well, you're finally on the court now. Make the most of it. Thanks for joining me. Look forward to seeing you again soon, 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 soon. It won't be so much time between shows next time. I'll get back at you guys real soon because I got another great topic already in my head. And maybe tomorrow, and maybe later tonight. I probably won't be later tonight, but maybe tomorrow. But I got another one, another hot topic for you that I'm going to probably make some people mad about. All good. Thanks.